What's up, everybody? This is Eric from Satisfied Incorporated. Today, I wanted to go over my E23. I got a 1982 733i, and I love this car. I think it's one of the most underrated classic BMWs ever. Everybody's into a bunch of other models, but you're really missing out on the E23. This car drives amazing, and I think it looks amazing. Um, it's super comfortable. So it's one of, if not my favorite cars. If you haven't really checked out an E23, check it out. It's worth it. But today, I wanted to talk about its biggest downfall. And if you own an E23, or maybe even around other classic BMWs, you'd know that the HVAC, or the heater panel on these classic cars, is probably one of their biggest downfalls. One of the biggest engineering flaws of all these cars. The E23 doesn't disappoint in that area. It's a mess. So anybody that's familiar with this car, pretty much got your heating controls, your fan, your temperature, and then this is supposed to dictate, your defrost, your heater, your vents, whatever. It dictates which part of the vents open up. So this is a problem in the E23. These always fry, these burn out. These have been a problem for me. So I went through a set when I very first got the car, and then I was planning on to switch this out. And just the other day, it started getting cold here, and the thing started glitching, tweaking, and it ended up like melting part of my fuse box. So it's a problem. So what I'm going to do here, what my plan is I want to try to replace this. But I was going to say one other problem with these things that I don't think I'm going to be able to fix. Well, I'm not planning on fixing anyway. Is this setup's a mess? But then they also have these. They're all vacuum pods. So when you apply vacuum to this pod, it opens or closes the vent, or the coolant, or the temperature, or whatever. So they're all activated by the pods, and I don't believe those are as big of a deal as all this mess. So what I'm going to try to do is I sourced an older school E23 heater panel, and I haven't done any research really. I just kind of mocked them up. They look like they're about the same size. One thing I really like about this too is I like manual things. So these aren't electronic, obviously. These things, you just turn them and they just go. I love the old school clock. This is the fan, and then this is all manual too. So I just took a look at the back of it before I bought it on eBay. Paid a lot of money for it. But basically, you've just got these vacuum lines. So I'll have to figure them all out. But there's vacuum lines all through here, and I'm hoping all I'm going to have to do is just hook up the vacuum lines appropriately to where these are hooked up to, and I'm hoping I'm good. So, and then I also get rid of this, which I hate to admit it, but this thing's kind of fun. But I'm missing like a little digit, a little blip on it too, so that annoys me. And then the temperature things like off and everything. But anyway, like I say, I like the old school stuff. The analog clock and everything. So my hope is to slap this thing in and have it work and be done with HVAC issues on this car. One of the bigger issues might be this hazard switch. I've got to switch it from this hazard switch. But I took a quick look, and if I remember right, this has the same amount of pins as this does. So I'm hoping I can just take like a multimeter and I can go to this hazard switch and I can just kind of trace what connects to what and what does what, and then this thing will do the same, and then I can kind of just plug them in. That's the only thing I'm kind of concerned about. We'll see how it plays out though. I guess worst case scenario, I would just try to take that switch and put it in here somehow, make like a little area or something, which probably wouldn't be too hard. It's a good backup plan. Fader obviously doesn't matter. Lighter doesn't matter. Air conditioning switch, I don't use air conditioning, so that's pretty much deleted. And then the rear window defrost should be, just 2 wires anyway. So that should be all good. Stereo should be good. Should all plug in. So, and then the other thing is, I don't know if I can back out far enough, but I'm going to be replacing this dash. This dash is actually hammered underneath. It's got tons of cracks and everything in it. This is one of those Accuform or I think Coverlay covers, and as you can see, it actually does a pretty good job at doing what it does. But I have these on a couple other cars, and you can't even tell that they're in. But this one was a nightmare because like this cutout here when I got it, and then like this cutout in here when I got it, they were all off by at least a 1/4 inch. So you can see I spent a ton of time. See if I can get spent a ton of time trying to get it to line up. But I mean, I spent hours on this, and you can see it's off just a little bit. It's like super impossible to be perfect with that stuff. But so all my vents are a little bit off, and that's always bothered me. So I'm going to replace this dash, and I've got a new dash. So I scored it was a crack-free Euro dash. It was awesome. I got this thing like a year or two ago. It's saturating in Armor All right now, trying to clean it up, get everything cleaned off. Real bummer about this, though, is I bought this from the guy, and it was crack-free. And he shipped it to me in a box with 0 padding, and the box is super tight. So it's got a couple minor flaws. They're hard to see. Got one like there. See one here. One here. I think that's it, though. There's just a couple cracks. It's fine with me as long as they don't grow into like 1/2 inch wide cracks. So pretty excited to get that put in. That's where I'm at with it right now. I'm just going to start pulling this dash out and see where I get. I will try to keep this updated. I'll make this video as I go and see what kind of problems I run into with installing this older style gauge panel. But hopefully some other people are interested in it too, because I mean, most people are probably having this problem. So hopefully we can figure something out and get these older style HVAC panels into the newer facelift cars. So it'd be kind of cool. The only problem is I bet there's not a ton of these HVAC panels floating around. And like I say, I bought this one and it was kind of expensive. So that is kind of a drawback. But my thought process is that, say, in another 10 years, if you have a problem with the electronic one, like I just showed you that's in my car right now, I don't know if you're going to be able to find the things at all. And it's just going to be a total pain in the butt. I feel like this one will last forever. The switches are just manual switches, and I just like the older stuff for that reason. So I'll keep you updated and see what I figure out. All right, so we're doing a quick update here. I'm in what I think you'd call the belly of the beast. If you're shy about electrical work or a giant mess, that's kind of where I'm at. So let me show you what I got going on. We got engine bay's a mess. See, I got the whole heater box pulled. That's out. I had to pull all this stuff out. It's all just gone. And then interior dash is out. Like I said, the heater box is out. Center console. So it is a giant mess right now. There's about, I don't know, man, hundreds of screws and nuts and everything everywhere. Got most of the stuff in the trunk. And like I was saying, I pulled the whole entire heater box, which I was going to try and be lazy, but I just kind of, I was looking at everything, and to get to all these heater pods and like all this stuff, it was a mess. And trying to figure out all the wiring and I didn't know what wiring was going where. You know, this was in the engine bay, but I basically pulled the heater box just to better understand what was even going on. And I'm super glad I did, because you see my heater fan is held in by a hose clamp. Not good. And then when I took things apart, you know, here's my rear heater pod. You know, found pencils and barrettes, and this piece of styrofoam was actually what was stopping my floor vents from closing. So, and then I found a bunch of just crap like rubber and all sorts of stuff in my heater core. In my heater core, I was going to replace the whole thing just so I don't ever have to do this again. Well, I don't have to do this later on. I figured it was a safe bet to do a new heater core. Then I looked up the cost, and you're about $450 into a heater core. So, gonna run it. But if this helps anybody else out, it's just like having it out and in your face is way easier to look at. So, got these flaps here. These flaps are going to be for like your vents to your face. So you can see there's one over here too. So those are going, and they're working off. They're working off this pod down here. Okay, and then another good reason I pulled my heater box is there's supposed to be a flap right here, just like on this side. So it broke off. You can see that is now moving. That is that heater pod, or let's see it, that pink one down there. So that's for external fresh air is what that'll do. Like I said, these are your face vents. This is this green one. So that's your defrost. And then there's a couple harder ones to see. This is one of the biggest reasons I pulled this, is because I couldn't even see. This is on the bottom. So this is your heater to your feet. And you know, your vents here will open. This thing kind of concerns me though, because even like messing with it is just not super smooth. I just got it stuck, in fact. So anyway, if it helps you out to see this kind of stuff, here's the whatever the feet heater pod things, and it'll open vents in here, on the other side over here. And then when you come back in, this is back to the top right here. This is your defrost. But then you have this flap here of mine that's broke, so it just jiggles around. But your heater core sits right here, and so if it's blocked off behind it, or I guess I should say if it's open behind it, the air is just going to bypass this heater core, and it'll come up and give you like a fresh air is what I'm thinking they're doing. But if you close it, if this closes like it's supposed to here, then it blocks all this off in here, and it makes the air come up through here, back through here, and that's what goes this way into your vents, or this way into your vents on the sides, or this way in your defrost. So this is another reason I'm glad I pulled it, is somebody said enough of this pod down here, because they put a golf tee into it. Whatever, I guess that's how you fix things sometimes. But there should be a pod here, and it open. I don't know if you can see that there at the bottom. This is for your rear. It's for your rear ventilation system. So it'll either go, so your hot air can go in here to the rear vent, or here. You know, of course, this just snaps on like this, and I've taken a bunch of crap off. But so the plan right now is I've actually spent a couple days looking at at the new HVAC panel and trying to figure out what the vacuum setups are for that. And then I've looked at all the wiring. So all this wiring, this is all isolated. See, this is your controls. This is all isolated into this heater box. So that's why I was saying it's pretty awesome to be able to take the whole entire heater box out. And now I know, you know, this is either AC or heater. And most of this is AC. So I'm going to be cleaning these things up quite a bit. And I'm going to be getting rid of most of things. So for example, like out of all this whole mess right here, you just need these things for the heater. All this that I'm holding in my hand, that's all AC. That's all going to get cut off, thrown away. So I mean, all this is going cut off, thrown away. You know, a lot of these cut off, thrown away, whatever. And then you have just a bunch of, it's just such a complicated setup. You got these, I don't even know what these are for. Back here, this is your vent pod. You probably have a better look at it there. And then here's the external air valve. And then I'm not sure what this is. Sorry, my camera's freaking out. I'm not sure what this is. It hooks up to this, which is like some sort of like electronic device, but it also has all your wiring going into the bottom of it. So it's got like your speed controls all your panels. It's kind of like a brain of some sorts, I guess. And this is what will dictate the voltage that goes to your fan. So I'm not keeping this. It won't work for me. You got to have the dials in order for this to work. So this is going. But I just disconnected this because that's what controls that broken thing. So anyway, this is, I don't know. Most of this is garbage at this point. So I'm going to be getting rid of this. And then here's the one I just pulled, which I've got a parts car that's got like, I don't remember, 60 or 80,000 on it. But it's super nice to have a parts car with that little mileage because, as you can see, this thing's pretty clean. It's way better than that one over there. I don't think this one's been modified too much. I don't think too many people have been in it. But I already pulled the cover. I pulled the heater core out, which is in good shape too. And then this flap's in place here, so that's good. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this flap just stay closed like it is, because if I'm running my fan, I want all the air to come through my vents, unless I want fresh air for vents. And then if I do that, then I'll just be opening. I'll be opening these things here. So if I want fresh air, it's just going to come through there, and then I'll have vents to the face here, I'll defrost here, and then I'll have the feet. So I'm only going to be running 1, 2, 3, 4 different pods. Like I said, all this garbage is going to go. So hopefully that helps somebody. It's kind of just an overview of how these heater boxes work. I figured even if you weren't into this mod, that maybe just seeing this thing out and understanding how it works might help you out. So I say hopefully it helps. All right, so I'm back at it in here. I got this thing, I think, figured out. And I thought I was going to figure out the power wires and the vacuum lines. I thought it would maybe take a couple hours. We're sitting about 3 or 4 days later. Literally, probably have, I might have 20 hours into figuring out the vacuum lines and electrical. Say it was challenging, to say the least. It's just German engineering. I don't think like these people. They don't think like me. You know, no wrong or right. I don't understand what they were going for. So I tried to map out all the vacuum lines and what they might be doing. And I even asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said this just isn't a thing. ChatGPT's got some work to do. So I'll walk you through everything that I remember. Like I say, it's been a couple days, so I'll try to keep this updated, but I might miss some things. So let's go into what I've done. Okay, so I guess I'll start with the electrical side. It was actually the easiest. My plan was I was just going to hook this into the existing electrical, and that actually messed with me for a while. That was a bad idea. So what I ended up doing is I'm just going to do all my own electrical. So just straight tore everything out. Here we are over here. So that was everything that was in there. That was all the electrical wiring, you know, all the solenoids, everything. So there's a lot, pulled a lot out of there. So, and then this is what we got to simplify down to, is I've got my 6 wires coming from the back of the switch, and they're going into a resistor pack. This is, I'll have to look this up again, but this is a resistor pack I found for like a 6-speed fan. I think it's out of like 2000 Chevy pickups, if I'm right. But anyway, this is super simple because we're just coming out of the back of the fan. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got 6 connectors in here. The way this works, this switch is, this is your main in. So this is your power in. Power in, and then every time you flip the switch, you've got 6 speeds, right? So every time you flip the switch, so if I turn the switch to speed 1, and all of a sudden this one has power going out. This violet wire has power going out. So the funny part though is if you're paying attention, I've got 6 speeds, but I've got 6 outputs on this switch, which if you think about it, I need 7 outputs because I need a power in and then I need 6 outputs. So it's kind of funny because if you check this switch out, if you turn it to speed 1, you'll get power to here, but speed 2 doesn't change anything. The only thing speed 2 does is you've got this vacuum pod back here. I don't know if I can show it or not. It's hard doing all this with a camera in one hand. So if you turn the switch on, see how that vacuum pod moves? So it's funny because this isn't actually a 6-speed fan like it says. This is actually a 5-speed because you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 speeds. You got 5 outputs. So that's kind of, I thought that was interesting. I don't know what they were doing. They were doing something with these vacuum pods. So speed 1 and speed 2 is just all about the pods. It's not about the speed of the fan. Anyway, maybe you find that interesting, maybe you don't. Anyway, so if you turn on speed 1, it'll go to here. You'll have power out of your violet. And then if you go speed 2, I don't know if I can turn this around. I don't know if this is a better view or not. So this is from the bottom side now, but your violet, your power and your violet are back up here now. So if you turn to speed 3, you'll have power at this one. Speed 4, power at this one. 5 and 6. So these are all your power outs. That's all they do, is they provide 12 volts. But if you have power, if you're on speed 6, say, this will have 12 volts, this will have 12 volts, this will have 12 volts, they'll all have 12 volts. If you go to speed 5, they'll all have 12 volts except for this last one. Speed 4 will have 12 volts except for these last 2. So hopefully that makes sense. So knowing all that, then we're going to come over to this resistor pack. And this thing here is, so this is power in. So this number 1 will be my power in, which also goes to switch, or this is a power in also. So this is like power for this, they'll be tied together. And then the second one goes to the last one. So the 6, here. Oops, it's gonna fall. And then this third one here, that's a ground. So that's the only one that doesn't go to the switch. That's ground. And then the third one, goes to this third one in. So that'd be your fourth switch if we're counting this as 1. Violet is 2, red 3, and then this one here back is 4, 5, 6. So this is 4. So the third one, or the fourth one, goes to 4. Fifth one, this black wire, goes to number 5. So it goes to that brown wire back there. And then the second to last one here goes to speed 2, or speed 1, I guess you'd call it, the violet. So it's the second one. And then the last one here will go to this red one back here. I don't know if I can see it. So number 3, this is my third switch. So hopefully that all makes sense. So that's how you'd wire this resistor pack up. This is going to give me 5 speeds, like I say, and this is a 6-speed fan, but it's only got 5 outputs. So it's a 5-speed fan resistor pack. So I did hook power up to this, and it creates power to my fan, 5 different speeds. So we're good to go. These here, these are going to clip, and these will go to my my blower fan. So this is all I've got. Is I've got these 7 wires hooked up all to my switch, then power and ground will come on into those, and this is just going to go straight to my blower motor. So 2 wires. So this is super simple. But then one thing I did with this resistor pack is this. I don't know if I can tilt everything without everything making a mess. So I cut a hole in the heater box. So you want these resistors to sit inside where there's airflow, because these get hot. Not just this, but your stock ones would too. And then if you can see, I made like a metal plate that goes in here. And the reason I did that is because I can pull out the gauge panel, and I can just take this resistor pack out, because this is the only consumable I'm going to be worried about now. This, maybe the switches here, and then my blower fan. That's the only thing that are consumables on this. So I want it all to be replaceable easily. So to do that, I just drilled a hole in this, and I made that, and I got one back here. And then these 2 just make it so these don't fall through. So I can just unbolt this, and I can pull this, put this down, and pieces don't fall in the heater box or anything like that. So that's why I kind of made that custom little metal plate that goes in there, if you can see that. Okay, so the way more confusing part is the vacuum setup. So confusing that I'm not even really positive how to start explaining it. But basically, I started thinking about my other cars, and my other cars really just have a foot vent and a defrost vent. And then they have, in the middle here, you can put it in the middle, and then it just keeps the defrost and the foot vent open. So you kind of got a mixture. Super simple, and that's all I really wanted. The other cars do have a vent too. It's like cable driven, and usually on the other one, so it's a little more simple. So all I really was focusing on was the defrost and the floor, and to get that working like my other cars. So the problem with this car, though, is it's way more gadgety, right? If you come in, the way I've got this set up is, so if you're on defrost like this, then only the defrost is on. That's it. So if you go to here, now you've got defrost and floor are on. You go to here, and this is just where the floor goes on, just floor again. And now we're back to floor and defroster on. Floor and defrost again, I believe. And then we're back to just defrost. So this is that's all true if the heater is on. So if the heat's on, that's all true. So now, but if I kick it back to AC, that should be AC or cold, whatever you want to call it. Now, none of this works except for where I'm at right there. That'll open the external air vents. That'll open the external air vents. That'll open the external air vents. So here, here, and here. And I did that, you know, obviously, because if I want heat, then I don't want the external air to even work. And then if I want cold, I don't want the heater to even work. But it might sound like I set this up this way on purpose, which I kind of did, obviously, but you're really forced into a setup, I guess, on this. And I don't even know. That's what I'm saying. I don't even know if I can explain, I could say how complicated this is. Because basically, if you look, if I can even show you. So you've got 5 ports in here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back there. And when you turn this switch, it's the same as the other one. You can watch this. Let's see. See that rod that just moved back there? The way all this works back here is there's like, it shuts off the ports to one another. So you got to figure out what ports are connected to what ports and what closes, what opens. Sometimes they're not connected to anything. Sometimes it's just, I'm telling you, it took me a long time to figure out. So not only do you have those 5 ports, then you come over here and you've got 3 more ports that are hooked up to the same vent selector switch. So you got 8 total ports hooked up to the selector switch. And then you've got 8 ports in here. Well, if I can show you. Yeah, you got 8 ports right in there. You got 8 ports hooked up to the heater's fan speed. To be honest with you, I tried messing with those and I can't really figure out what they're doing. It's that's between speeds 1 and 2, it changes the inflows and outflows, but I don't know how to explain this. It just caused like leaks and stuff, and so I don't know how you would even make that work. So I just left all that. I don't know what the original plan was, and I guess just to clarify, I don't have, there's like not a Chilton's or a Haynes manual that I can look at, that I can find. I don't have a spare parts car that I can find. This didn't come with any tubing existing on it. So I'm kind of just reverse engineering and trying to figure out what they were doing. I haven't even asked for help. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. If you're like, oh man, this is way easier than he's making it. excuse me. Well, that's why, because I don't actually know what I'm doing. But then this is on the AC side. So let me kind of walk through what I kind of figured out and what I'm going to do here. So this is the 3rd line in, is going to be my constant vacuum. It'll be coming from, the vacuum supply or the motor or whatever your main supply in. So I'm going to call this 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 is hooked up over here. And it's the second from the bottom, I guess you would call that. So on these, I was doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be 1, 2, 3. So 3 is connected to 1 over here. 2 is blocked off. 3, like I said, is my constant vacuum supply. And then 4 is going to come in, and there's 1, 2, 3. And so 4
is connected to 1 in there. And so I guess to go through the small block real quick. So this comes from there. So this only gets a vacuum supply when it's on the AC mode. This is my vent, my external air in. So it's in AC mode. This will be getting vacuum, which connects this line here. And then this line here is going to my external in pod. Okay, so because this is isolated, that's why none of this over here gets engaged when the heat is on. Okay, so that's what happens is this one turns on. Sorry, this number 4 turns on when the AC is on. This one turns on when the heat is on. So this one goes, like I say, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's number 4. So it's, I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. So this is my constant vacuum in to this series of pods. So my first one, what should be the top one here, if you can see that. No, that's not right. Right here, the first one is my floor vent. So again, like I said, this is really complicated. So here, maybe I can pull it back and look at it. So there you go. That's a little bit better. So this is my floor vent. So the vents all worked the way they were supposed to, but if I switch the selector with the vacuum on, like it would be if you're running the car, it shut the pod and didn't allow it to close. So if you moved from, say, floor to defrost, the floor would stay open because it would just shut everything off. So you didn't have vacuum running to it, but how do I say that? So you didn't have vacuum running to it, but because you shut it off, it was like a valve. And so you shut off everything to it, which made it stay in the state that it was, which in this case, if you went from open, which had vacuum to it, and you switched it, then it still had vacuum because it had a closed valve. And so it always stayed closed. So I had to find a way around about that. I hope that makes sense. That sounds really confusing, but what I basically found here is that I put a check valve for a vent, and I don't know if these check valves are supposed to work this way, but they have a tiny bit of a leak. So I've got some tape over it. This one has too much of a leak. I think it's just too old, but it has a tiny bit of a leak. And so when I switch off the, say, floor valve and I go to defrost, it has a tiny bit of a leak, so it'll close the valve. If that makes sense. So I had to do a T into these, and I had to put vacuum lines into them. Or, sorry, check valves into them. So that's why I've got check valves going to all these. Then if you look at this next one over is number 2, is tied to, it gets so messy. It's got a 4-way here. So number 2 connects to number 5. But I've got check valves in between, just to make it simple, I guess. Yeah, if you turn the selector a certain way, it'll make it so this is open to air. And so I put the check valves in so it can't suck air from that way. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, 2 is connected to 5, but you got to put one check valve in between them. I've got 2 because, again, I think the check valves are old. I'm waiting for new check valves. So connect 2 to 5, and then 5 will also have an external check valve for the vent, like I just explained. And then 5 goes to defrost. Super complicated. So 1 is to floor, 2 and 5 to defrost. 3 is your in from over here, like I already explained. 4 is blocked off, and then 5 again is the defrost. So I don't know if anybody can follow that. It's like I say, super complicated. But anyway, I think this is going to work. I just need new check valves, and then I'll cut my lines to size. Make sure they're all nice. I'll get all this all nice and everything and run this all clean. But I just wanted to show a quick picture of what I did in here, just to show how this is going to be super simple, super clean. Put the heater core back in, clean this all up, and I'll put it back in. So I wanted to show all that. while it's still kind of fresh in my mind and while it's open. So hopefully that made sense, and I might even have to come back to this video one day to see what I even did and what I was thinking. All right, so I got another update. Pretty much got the heater box good to go, ready to throw back in. I'll show you a couple things that I did. So on these heater boxes, these plastic pieces are built into the whole unit. So if you break these pieces off that hold the caps on, then basically you got to replace the whole entire thing, which, yeah, just it's a nightmare. It's an engineering flaw. But anyway, so I made these little steel tabs. Obviously I'm just bolting those in, and then that's what holds this. So I decided to be proactive. I think I could have replaced these with the heater box in the car, but while I was out, I just wanted to make my life easy. So I did these front and back. This one was broken. This one had to be adjusted. And then the one that holds the other side on, it had like a screw holding it on. And I checked, I've got 2 spare parts cars, and both of them have broken ones too. So this is obviously a big issue. And this is a permanent fix, so this is good. You can kind of see that I think this has been JB welded or something at some point. So it's another part of the problem, and it's the same thing. It's all built in. So you got to replace the whole thing, but I think this is fine. These things are permanent. These things are awesome. So this heater box, I'm starting to get super excited, because you can see this is what this is basically what's going to be coming out of my car. I'm going to have 2 wires. This is all cleaned up. And then this is probably hard to see because it's a mess right now, but this will all be clean. There are 2 pods. There's the defrost pod, the floor pod, and, or sorry, I guess 3 pods. Defrost, floor, and then the vent or the face pod. So I've got 3 pods, a couple air lines, a couple wires. This thing's really getting minimized. Moving on to the next issue, though. I'm going to put this into the car, but so this is interesting because I look on like Real OEM or whatever, and they're showing that it has a pod that adjusts the temperature for the car. Like if you look, so this is the temperature knob, and if you look, this white thing, so it's like a cable actuated, so it just comes through here. The cable is held in by this piece, but basically it's a cable actuated heater temperature control, I guess you'd call it. So like I say, Real OEM just shows the pod, and I'm not sure why that is, and I couldn't figure it out. So what I'm doing to resolve that is the E21 uses a cable actuated controller, and so I'm going to order an E21 one. But this is I got this cable from the hood latch on my spare parts car E21, and this was just real easy. I just wrapped this around a screw or whatever, and so I made this. And so this is going to go, where am I here? So it'll go around like that. I don't know if you can see that. It'll go around like that. And then let's see if this will work. Yeah, it's not going to work. But you get the point. So that thing's going to move, and so it'll adjust that, and it's going to adjust the temperature that way. So I even get to get rid of the temperature control pod. So I'm pretty excited about all this. I'm ready to throw this in. So I think the temperature control part's figured out. I think everything else is figured out. I think the vacuum lines are figured out. I do have an update on the vacuum lines. I was going to use those leaky check valves, but I've got a better idea for that. So I'm going to I'll show that as I get that installed. And I think the last thing I've got to figure out is the hazard switch. I've got to adapt the car's in 1982. I've got to adapt the 1982 wiring to a, you know, whatever this is, 1978 hazard switch because they're different shapes, so I can't just simply put the newer style switch into the console. So that's the last thing I think that's going to hang me up and then I have to figure out, but I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal. We'll see. Okay, so just one other thing I wanted to bring up while I'm in here, and this is super easy to see. A lot of people will complain about there'll be water on their floorboards, and they're always like, most people assume like it's a sunroof drain, which it could be. But I'll tell you, all the cars here, most classic BMWs have this problem. And I'll tell you what it is this is where your heater box goes. So if you get a good amount of rain, you only have, what is that? That's a 3/8 of an inch of pooling water before it enters into the cab. So almost every car I have will fill up with water on the floorboard because of this problem. The E12 is different because it doesn't have this open area here. It opens it in front like this. In fact, I got my E12 right here. So this is why the E12 doesn't leak. It'll have the hood that goes into there, but it just doesn't connect and seal and drain all the water in there like these cars. I mean, this car is just wide open. As you can see, it rains in here. So if you live in say Arizona, you're probably like wondering what I'm talking about. But if you wonder, or if you're somewhere like I am, like the Pacific Northwest, this is why your car has pooling water on the floorboards. So my fix to this, as you can see, I drilled holes to help it. So it's already got these drains in here. That's where it's draining, but it how do I say it? It slopes up from here. So most of the time in there, it'll have pooling water, and your heater box has to seal that. And if it doesn't seal that, which it probably doesn't, then it's going to leak into the floorboards. So while you got all this out, if you're doing all this, I would drill a couple holes like that, and that'll drain the water away. All right, so everything's all plumbed in, wired in, ready to throw this thing back together. So just kind of wanted to show it in case I needed to get in here again, but here's all my connections. So I only ended up having to do, I got new check valves, so I only got the one check valve going from port 2 to 5, so that should fix that issue. And then I don't know if you can see here, but I had a 4-way and then a T here, and then these lines actually are going to go out over here. And then I found these, I'm going to put this kind of by my feet so I can adjust it. This is like a fish tank. I don't know, I guess it's so you can introduce air into the water line. So I can just keep this kind of close to the steering wheel externally, and I can adjust this according to how much vacuum how much of a vacuum leak I want to happen. So, and then also keeping this line close by and by my feet. If this doesn't work out, or if I can't have a vacuum leak like that and it's messing with me or something, I can just I can have it really close by, and I can change it out or do something else with it. But I think this is going to work. But I tested this, and just using my mouth as a vacuum, it allows the slightest leak, and it allows like a really good leak. So I think this will be fine. So while I'm in here too, I got all my fan wirings all hooked up. I hooked it up in here with there's a connector, a battery connector in there. So if I ever have a problem with that, I'll just pull the whole, I don't know if I can get in there. It's the lighting's not great, but I can just pull that whole piece out. Shoot, I hope. It's kind of sandwiched in here. I didn't think about that. So hopefully it has enough height I can pull it out. If not, I will have to figure that out, but I think we'll be okay. But yeah, anyway, this has just got a connector on it, so I can just pull that out. These leads just pull out, so this is all easy replaceable. So I'm excited. I'm going to put this thing back in, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so I almost got this thing installed, and I was dealing with the hazard switch. I was not sure if I was going to be able to just basically swap the wiring onto the new switch, but I think I got lucky, and I mean lucky because I didn't really, well, I don't know, I've been working on it for a couple hours, so I can't say I've been doing nothing, but I just kind of broke it down and started adding one thing at a time, and that's how I was able to figure this out. But it seems to all be working. So to kind of help you out and kind of see what I did here, this brown white wire is hooked up to my 31G. So I can't remember what the numbers going around on the circle here, but it goes ground and then blinker outputs on each side. This is a switched power, which I don't even know why you need that. I don't have to hook that up and it still works. There's a constant power hooked up to 30. I guess that's a yellow, green, and then this is my dash lights, the gray, red, and then green, purple. And so that's all my connections, and I mean it's worked. The dash works, the exterior lights work, everything works. All right, so I'm finishing up this heater install, and I just wanted to show a couple last pieces here. So this in here, this is going to be where your old heater valve went. So in there, so all I did was simply connect that with a barbed hose. I eliminated everything else. And then on this other side, what I'm going to do is this is a E21 heater valve. It just works opening and closing this with a cable, and I'm pretty sure I already showed you on the controls on the inside where it's got the cable. But real OEM doesn't show any of this, so I don't know what they do for this heater valve. But anyway, I just know that the E21 uses it, so this is what I'm going to do. I'll just throw it in. There was already a splice down in here, but I'll throw this in. Show it when it's done, but I've got the cable running from the inside, and then the cable's coming out down here, and I'll hook that all up and show it in a second. Okay, so just showing real quick that I just cut my cable to length. I threw it down there. There's my valve. But I threw it down there, and then I just marked it with a Sharpie, and hopefully that fits. I'll hook it up. So quite literally the last thing I got to take care of on this thing was this valve. And I figured out that the E23 likes to, let's see, it likes to push the cable when it goes cold, and it likes to pull it when it gets warm, which is the opposite of the E21. So I had to make this kind of funky little bracket thing here. And so I screwed it down over here, and then I just shoe gooed the rest of it. I think you could probably get away without the shoe goo, but I don't know. And you probably could JB weld it too, but yeah, this project has been is kind of like as lucky as I've needed to get on all the parts. I've gotten super lucky, and then this is the one thing that didn't work out perfectly. I guess it's going to work fine, but ideally, I think you need to figure out that E23 valve. Or if not, I could cut a couple of these for people. Like I say, I think it'll work. We'll just throw it in there and we'll see how it goes. All right, so there it is down there. So it's all installed, and I don't know if you can tell, but so another problem with the E23, I'm trying to get light on there. You can see those two black tabs and then the white adjusters in the middle. So the E23 has less throw than the E21 also. So that's my closed position, which if you actually looked inside the valve, it's mostly closed, but not all the way. There's a tiny bit of flow. I don't think it's going to matter, but I set it up so when it's open, I get full flow, and then closed is, I'd say 90% closed. But This is what I found to be the only downside so far. So I think I will keep my eyes open for an E23 valve, one that goes with it, because I think it's going to work a little bit better. But I'll see how this goes. If it cools off enough and has temperature adjustment, it'll be fine. And I just need to make sure that little bracket that I made is going to hold up. But I don't think that's going to be a problem either. So I might leave it. But if anybody else is following this and wanting to do this, try to find an E23 valve. It'll make your life a little easier and better. Along with all the vacuum lines and the pods and electrical and everything, I removed the vacuum pump too. And I'm just running straight off the manifold down there. I got a check valve, and then this line actually runs through the cowl to kind of try to protect it from the motor heat a little bit. And I took it over to the vacuum box or whatever. So removed everything I could, and this has been amazing too, because now I don't have to worry about this thing. And I don't know why you would even have this now that I've run the car the way it is. There's no lack of vacuum and there's no problems at all. So that was a good thing to remove so far. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on this heater control that I've been working on the E23. I've had it installed for a couple weeks now, and it's really changed the car. I've never owned this car. While it's had like floor heat, face heat, it's just had defrost, and then, the speeds kind of worked if you kind of found the right place on the knob or whatever. But I've never had this car with a working heater. But now I have it, so the rear has heat on the floor, and then the feet, I have it all set up. This is where I'm at, and then this is what I've been super happy about. So not only did I wanted the clock really bad. I like the clock, but I like the whole layout of this versus the push buttons. I'm trying to remember everything I was gonna say, but I got this working. I should just showed that. So this is working. I got my temperature working. I got my 6 speeds here, and then I did end up. I made a mistake. I'll just keep it earlier in the video, but I made a mistake. I was mistaking the defrost vents for the face vents. So that kind of meant that I had to switch up the vacuum pods a little bit, but it actually worked out really good. Because the way it works is when I have it on heat here, this is just the floor. And then if I go, let's see, that's still just the floor. And then if I move it up here, now it has floor, the face vents, and the defrost. So, and then if I go here, now it's just defrost. So to me, that's pretty perfect. I know it's missing a couple functions that the stock car has, but that's everything I want is, just defrost alone, floor alone, and then I want all 3 to work at the same time. It would have been kind of nice to try to get the floor and the face separate, but I'm just not that concerned with it. Anyway, yeah, but this has the floor and the face. I guess I meant the floor and defrost together alone, but this has floor and face, and it's just everything worked out pretty good. I'm super stoked about it. So yeah, I'm super stoked about the setup here. It gave me a little bit more of an old school look. I removed a ton of wiring, a ton of vacuum pods, a ton of like complicated mess, and I just switched it all out for an easier setup. So I'll post this up, and maybe it'll help somebody out. Maybe somebody else will like this mod. If not, maybe you can just nerd out and learn some things about how the heater systems work and all that too. So thanks for watching, and hit up the comments if you have any extra info, because I know that I didn't really do a lot of research on what should have been working and how this works. And so I know I missed a lot of information that I know you guys can fill us in on. So leave some comments and tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.